Hello, everyone. How's everyone feeling today? Put your hands up if it's good. Put your hands up if it's bad. I'm just going to check if that's everyone who's joining. Okay, I think we can start straight on a dot. If you can hear me, if you can give me a thumbs up. Perfect. Thank you so much and welcome, and thank you for joining the Young Women's Speech Contest Leadership session. Today we're going to have inspiring speakers. My name is Enna. I think a couple of you have met me through my work at the Women's Federation for World Peace. I came through the Young Women's Speech Contest myself in 2020, and since then I've been involved with the Women's Federation and just helping around, sticking around for women empowerment. So the Young Women's Speech Contest is an educational program created by the Women's Federation for World Peace to empower girls, to give them a voice, to give them strength, to inspire them to continue bringing change to the world, to their families, to their communities. We are going to discuss the Young Women's Speech Contest strategy, a little bit of history, and some good things. And we're going to have a Q&A at the end. So for starters, we are going to introduce Katerina Minolari. She's a president of Albanian WFWP and a sub-regional director of Balkan chapter since year 2000. She's also an art teacher, inspiring generations of creatives, and she has organized a Young Women's Speech Contest since the 2020, which has been empowering women from all over Albania. Give it up for Katerina.
Good evening, and thank you for the introduction. Thank you for coming. So I will share my our experience in Albania. And first, I want to say that actually we took the idea from the UK for the first time. So shout out to the UK chapter of Women's Federation. So I'm sorry, I'll just share my screen. So as I mentioned, we started interestingly in 2020, which was the COVID year. So not really the best time to maybe start new initiatives, but for us, this was a new start with this competition. And for the first, I think, 2 years, it was sponsored by Women's Federation International. I think we got maybe 3 or 4 times we got this sponsorship at the beginning, which gave us a boost and allowed us to kind of rebrand ourselves by attracting young people. And since then, we organized it every year since 2020. And for the first 2 years, it functioned as Young Women Speech Contest, but then we changed to youth speaking contest, just because we always had some interest from men, from boys, and we thought, well, why not? We can also accept men. Usually there are not many, but usually every year we have 1 or 2 who actually get to the finals. So we think, especially if we talk about the equality or a partnership between men and women, it's good to also have some young men participate in those events. And it's been very successful for us, just because we see that this initiative attracts really elite young people, those who are active, who want to do something in society, who want to have some impact with vision. So even though our prices are not that big to really attract people, but the event itself really attracts a lot of attention. So some of our participants from the previous years, we see them advance in the society. For example, one of our winners now is a member of parliament. Another one is a judge. Some more like entrepreneurs, or they they work in public administrations or NGO academia. So this makes us think that we need to continue. That's why we always make efforts to do it every year. So first step for us is always deciding on a theme. We do it at the beginning of the year. And here you can see the themes from the previous years. So usually we aim for a topic that will involve some kind of debate or some important issue, but we want to also formulate it in a kind of open-ended way to allow people for various approaches to promote maybe more reflection on an issue that we consider important. So after that, the next and very important step is the promotion. So we want to spread the word about our competition. So we usually start in the spring, March or April, and continue through June. So we do it in many ways. Of course, first is through any direct events that we have with Women's Federation or with any of our partnering organizations. So we spread the word through our contacts and guests, asking them to pass it on, sometimes also through posters and leaflets. But we find that the best way is through the social media. This is how it reaches the furthest. So I want to say maybe a few more words on that topic. So first of all, it's important to plan a whole campaign. So of course, if we start in April and applications are until June, it's not enough just to have 1 or 2 posts. It's good to plan it, maybe have a post, well, ideally every week, to just keep the message. And especially if this is an important topic, then you not only promote the initiative, the competition, but you can also include posts that refer to the topic itself to raise more interest. And it's good to use reels. That's especially effective. Now with young people, it's also more popular. That's a static image. Also, if it's not for the first time, one effective way is including the stories of participants from the previous year. So usually each year we ask the participants from the previous years to record a video where they share a short message and an invitation for others to apply, and we post these videos on social media. Now, another very good way is using paid boosts. So you can do it, especially, again, I will mention it later. We use mostly Instagram. We also use Facebook, but especially that we want to reach to young people, Instagram is much better because young people mostly use Instagram. So we pay for those boosts, and this is usually not a lot of money. So like, $10, $20 or euros, and you can reach to quite many people in this way. Also, you can, if you can, use the impact of influencers. If any of your contacts is already a kind of an influencer on social media, anybody who has a lot of followers, if you ask them to share your message, sometimes it's more effective even than a boost. So here you can see this first post with this young lady in a red shirt. She is one of those influencers. So just her one post gains over 5,000 views. So through this, we could reach to many other people. As I mentioned, use Instagram with young people, not Facebook. Of course, another method might also be the promotion in media, although I think, and we use that in the past every now and then, if we can find access to, let's say, have an interview on TV. So many times there may be the local TV stations, they might need some content, or the programs that are aired, let's say, in the morning, they also usually need somebody to come and talk. And usually it doesn't really bring a lot of applications, but it gives us some visibility, which is also good. So we speak about the contest, or here on the second picture, we also invited a participant from the previous year who shared about her experiences. So that's also a promotion for Women's Federation, to not only for our competition. Okay, applications usually are done through Google Forms. So when we promote it on social media, we also attach a link to the Google form where people can apply. So we first ask them to provide some personal data and maybe explain why they are interested in the competition. And we allow them to send the content later. Of course, another way to do it is to just ask them to apply right away. I mean, write their data and send the content. But sometimes we see that, okay, if people are allowed to like apply, like express their interest by applying to Google form, that we already have their contact. And we sometimes like, we reach out later if they don't send their content quickly enough, then we can just reach out to them again and ask them to submit. And usually we organize it in a way that, well, we provide, okay, this is more of a marketing secret. So let's say we will accept applications until the end of June. Let's say it's beginning of April. We know that we will be accepting invitations until the end of June. But if we post it now and say applications is until end of June, like, what happens that, young people are busy or they maybe procrastinate. So if you tell them application is until end of June, they will wait until the last moment. If we tell them applications is until end of May, then you have chance you will receive some applications earlier. We can push them also, please apply, the deadline is coming. But then, okay, when the May 30th passes, but in June say, well, we decided to prolong, you can still apply. So, there is another chance. So that's just a trick to maybe gain a few more applications. Then another important point is the evaluation of submission, so of the text. So of course, first we ask them write your speech and submit it as a text. And we define it, I think, for around like 1,000 words. So that's an important step. And of course, depends how many submissions you have. But if you have many submissions, it's important to evaluate them properly. So the first step that we do is always that the submissions are evaluated anonymously. So there's one person who deals with that. Each submission gets a number, right? So that there's a record, let's say, with the names, but then a number is assigned to each submission. And then we have a team who evaluates the written texts. And usually there are 2 people assigned to evaluate each text. And the evaluation is done according to a rubric. So that's just to be as fair as possible, because otherwise it's very easy to be subjective. So we clarify the criteria. So let's say, is it organized well? Do we have a proper introduction? Is there a structure that you can follow? What about the conclusion? Well, do we see any interesting examples to support all the points? Is it written in a clear language, right, without some grammar issues and things like that? Is it original? So I'm not showing the rubric now, but it's important to have like a clear list of criteria to decide how it's evaluated. So again, we have those 2 members of our staff who evaluate each submission. And then we compare the numbers in a rubric. And let's say if there is like a big discrepancy in the points, then we ask one more person to evaluate it. Again, we want to be as fair as possible. So we discuss if that, it's normal if there's a difference by just 1 or 2 points, but if it's like a very big difference in evaluation, then we want to make sure that we take a good look and that we are fair in our evaluation. Then in our case, we admit 30 30 participants to the interview stage. And this usually happens on Zoom in late August. And the goal of those interviews is to just check to gauge that they can communicate orally, because occasionally there are people who write very well, but they don't have maybe enough courage or confidence to speak in front of others. Or now there might be another problem, right, with AI. Maybe somebody generated everything with the use of AI, but they are not really able to speak well. Or maybe some people are not really very serious. If they don't show up for the interviews, then they basically are excluded. And we give usually each participant I think 2 or 3 minutes to introduce themselves shortly, just answer the question why they decided to participate. And we ask them just to summarize their main message just in a few words. And again, we have just a simple rubric to evaluate that. So later we look at both the points from the written text and from the interview. And we accept 21 to the semi-finals and the public speaking training. Sometimes we may accept more to the training itself, but we say, okay, 21 of those who pass to the semi-finals. That means these are the candidates to pass to the final event. So our training usually happens in September, usually in mid-September. And first we have 1 hour presentation from an expert who just explains again what's important in public speaking, all those details about the articulation, body language content with the audience and so on. And then is the second part of the training, which is actually the semifinals. So those 21 participants who pass to the semifinals, they have a chance to shortly speak. So we just give them 2 minutes. So they speak in front of everyone, and at this point they also receive that feedback from jury. So we evaluate them according to the same rubric that is used in the finals. And usually in this case, the jury is small, with just maybe 3 of us, maybe mostly our staff member, maybe with an addition maybe of an ambassador for peace. And so again, we give them feedback to the participants so they can also learn from our feedback and also from each other. And from that, we select 12 participants to the final event. And it happens usually a week or 2 after the training. And again, it's held at the end of September in our case. Then we have a more professional jury. Usually we have 2 our staff members and 3 ambassadors for peace, or people who, so we aim to maybe include somebody who is more known for the public, just to give more prestige to our event. Usually some academics or former government members or journalists, whomever we can find who is available. And we usually our jury has like 5 members, and we aim for an odd number. So I believe an odd number is important. Just if a jury has any, if there's a difference of opinion, if you have 5 people voting, you can always decide by majority. If there are 6, then you might be stuck maybe when taking a decision. So during the final event, which of course you see we invite audience, so our other Women's Federation guests and the participants, of course, they can also bring their own maybe friends or family members. So each participant speaks for 5 minutes. And again, the evaluation is done according to a rubric. Again, the use of a rubric for me is very important, because otherwise it can become very subjective. And also, if you have 12 people talk, and usually they are very well prepared at this final event, this evaluation can be really difficult. So the jury has to act very quickly while the participant speaks. They have to quickly evaluate, just accord the points in their own, in their own rubric. I can later share maybe the example of a rubric, what we look at, but thinking about those various aspects that are important. Yes. The format of the event is as follows. So usually there's first just a welcoming message. Then part one, we have 6 participants. Each one speaks for 5 minutes. Usually each one is introduced. So we try to prepare a nice PowerPoint with a photograph, just to treat them kind of like a VIP on that day. Because it's for them, it's a stress. Of course, it's a big hall. For many of them, it's first time to be in front of such an audience. So we really try to create an environment that is friendly and welcoming. And many of them comment that this is what really was important for them, that they really enjoyed this experience, that it's very different than in other places, because often if you participate in competition somewhere else, it's more harsh or competitive or maybe more external, but we really try to treat them well and create a family atmosphere. Okay, then we have break, and then the second part again, we have 6 speakers, and after that, the jury goes out to summarize the points. And usually my goal is to first look at the math, and in most of the cases, the math will tell us all. So we just summarize the points from all the juries, and we decide who's the winner, the second, and the third. If there's, any discrepancy, again, there might be a little bit of a discussion, but basically those points from the rubric are really important. Otherwise, it's easy to forget who did what and how they were, or if there's too much of a discussion, it just becomes, in the jury, it just becomes a matter of who is more convincing in the jury, or so I really don't like it. So if sometimes we have like a member of jury that becomes too subjective, I don't invite them again. And unfortunately, my experience is that many times people who have a background in arts, they tend to be subjective. So if somebody tells me, oh, I didn't like that person because it was too theatrical, that's for me not a reason at all. We didn't have this in the rubric. That's not a reason to decide for or against. So I really insist that we, look clearly at the rubric, at the important points of the content, the organization of the speech, or the contact with the audience, the confidence, body language, all those elements that are important in public speaking. So after jury makes their decision, we quickly fill out the certificates, and we then announce the winner. So this point is really important. We usually prepare some, we need to have some performances during that time. This is usually kind of an open mic moment. If anybody from the audience, wants to share something or say something, we have to, the MC has to be creative in that moment and think of what we can do, because, sometimes it takes some time for the jury to decide everything. Okay, our prizes usually, again, are not very big, 300, 200, 100 euros. But we aim to also provide some more prizes. So for that, we try to reach out to businesses or some, maybe our members who have more resources to provide some more additional prizes. So last year, we also had an audience favorite. So there was voting for the favorite speaker from the audience, and a few additional prizes, either monetary or services. So maybe, a dinner at a restaurant that was offered by a restaurant. So that's also a way to maybe gain some additional support. We also try to do some follow-up. So that's important. So one way we do that, we print a booklet with the speeches of the finalists, and we invite them for a meeting. And we talk more about what we do. And then we also invite them to this other project that we call Youth Peace Academy, which is a kind of a leadership training. This is another project we develop. So usually these are like 3 presentations that we develop. First one is called Values as a Basis of Leadership, then Challenge of Relationships in Family and Society. And we talk about the importance of the family and the conflict resolution. And then we talk more practically about project design. So how to design a project if you would like to do anything in society, and a practical session where they work in groups to design a project. we also invite usually a VIP, so somebody who has a lot of experience in leadership. And again, we aim for someone who's like a known face that is more high level. And usually it's very inspirational for both sides, so both for the participants, because it's not easy for them to have access to this kind of people, but also these ladies are usually very inspired if they see like active young people who are ambitious, who have some vision. They really enjoy it a lot. So this also has been quite successful. Okay, I think I went a bit over time. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Katerina. That was a very beautiful, succinct, informative, and illuminative piece. And I think the UK chapter as well has a lot to learn as well, especially in terms of the marketing and strategies. So thank you for that. I see that we have a couple of questions. We will have a Q&A at the end. But first, I would like to introduce Asma and Sharon. Asma Ahmed is a co-director of the Young Women's Speech Contest, UK and its alumni network at WFWP UK, which is bringing over 20 years of global experience in law, international development, NGO management, mediation, community development. She has worked across grassroots and leadership levels in the UK, Europe, Africa, Asia, integrating her experience and expertise as an educator and program designer to deliver impactful initiatives. As a founder of Inspire Visions Collective, she leads programs that advance women's leadership, education, and sustainable development, including support for women and girls facing barriers to learning in Afghanistan and wider. And our lovely Sharon Kabubi is also co-director of the Women's Federation for World Peace Young Women's Speech Contest UK. She's also an advocate for gender equity, environmental justice, with professional experience spanning digital transformation at PwC, BDO, and the UK government. She brings her versatility, grassroots advocacy work in climate justice, community empowerment, and leadership for women and girls. She also expanded to the UK Parliament and the UN. She's collaborated on initiatives with young organisations in both the UK, Uganda, WFWP Uganda, and Uganda UK Kingdom Youth Forum, to name some. From 2020 to 23, Sharon served as a school governor for Sydenham Girls' School, where she sat on the Children's Families and Community Committee, Families and Community Committee, and she's a two-time international peace ambassador with a passionate conviction for youth leadership. She's also just completed her MSc in Urban Economic Development at UCL, and obviously she's very deeply committed to advancing women's leadership, entrepreneurship, and environmental resilience. So they are going to introduce a little bit of the Young Women's Speech Contest UK chapter. So over to you guys.
Thank you, Anna, for a lovely and warm introduction. And good evening to all our Women's Federation colleagues and friends. And I know there are some wider community members, so both online and in person. Welcome you. Over to Sharon as well.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Asma. It's a real pleasure to be here this evening and to talk about the Young Women's Speech Contest as a flagship program of the UK and to represent what the program has come to grow into over the last 10 years. So thank you so much. I'm now going to share my screen for a brief presentation on the speech contest. So we wanted to give you, can everyone see my screen okay? Great. So we wanted to give you a kind of background and context of this program and how it came to be such a strong pillar of the WFWP UK chapter and where we are today, which Asma will go into later. So the program, oh, well, we all know what the WFWP kind of stands for in terms of our values, and the program is very much part of initiating this into the communities we touch with young women, which is advocacy and outreach, building solid foundation, and essentially raising future leaders. So I won't go over the vision and mission statements, as I'm sure you'll all be very familiar. But this part is quite essential as it kind of provides a story as to how it came to be. So the speech contest originated through WFWP Japan, where we had foreign students living in Japan, who Japanese wasn't their first language. And so essentially, there was a concept that was born whereby we would create, I say we, it's actually, Asma, can you remind me? You're on mute, sorry.
Tycho Duckworth.
That's it, Tycho. I know it began with T, but the name has left my mind. So Miss Tycho Duckworth, who you all might remember, she had the idea of introducing a speech contest for foreign students in Japan to create a speech in front of a public in Japanese, although the language wasn't their native language. And this would be based on a chosen theme. And so this program took off with such great success that when she came to the UK in 2015, she had the brilliant idea of replicating this contest, focusing on young women in the UK. And this is when the Young Women's Speech Contest was born and has come to be one of our flagship educational and leadership programs. So a bit about who is behind this flagship program. Of course, we have Miss Mitty, who has been the backbone chairing this program. And then we have Miss Krista Rennie, myself, Miss Asma as well, who's my co-director, Enna as well, who's a core member of the lead team, as well as Miss Preet. We have a few other members who sometimes support in and out, but this is the core leadership team. And we've kind of come to form the, I guess, executive structure that supports this program. So to delve deeper into the progression of this program, as I said, we launched in 2015 officially with 12 finalists at the WFWP UK headquarters in Lancaster Gate in London. Somewhere here in the second column, 2016, is when my path crossed with the Women's Federation. Asma and I both met at the same cohort. We were the second intake of the speech contest. And essentially, the aim was to advance leadership of young women through this platform, build confidence, public speaking skills, provide a platform to enable women's voices and beliefs to be heard, as well as implement the UN SDGs. And this becomes more important as the platform grows. Between 2015 to 2023, this is now an established annual contest. And as you can see listed, we have from 2015 to 2023, all the different themes that we've come to, I guess, center the contest around. Typically, our themes are centered around women's issues, women's role in society. We'd also try to keep the theme as broad and as open so that it's relatable for women coming from all walks of life to speak to this issue. And what's interesting is young women come from all walks of life with something to say. And it's so beautiful to watch the evolution from when they become candidates to finalists. Everything from career, marriage to peace building. We've had environmental topics, as well as reconciliation and youth participation. Of course, we have other themes from up until 2025. So this has been the progression. And then 2019, we think bigger and become more ambitious. We decide to launch what we call the Alumni Network, so the Young Women's Alumni Network. And so it would have been a community of the young women who have come from the contest and essentially create a space for all of us who are somehow passionate about women's issues, the society we live in, the progression of our world. And what we find is all the young women tend to have an attraction to the Women's Federation. And they want to be part of this network. They want to be part of a group of women who are also leaders and initiators in their community. A lot of the young women also have founded their own projects, their own, sometimes businesses. Sometimes they have their own non-profits, similar to what Miss Katerina was speaking of in Albania. So it's an inspiring process to go through. And I think an important journey for the young women. And I only say that because that's what it has become for myself. So over the years, these are our winners. We've had winners coming sometimes as students, sometimes they're visitors to the UK, travelers. Sometimes they're here for a moment, maybe for a year or two. Sometimes they've been students, sometimes they've been mothers, or leaders in their communities. So we attract a broad range of young women. And I'm now going to hand over to my co-director, Asma, to talk about our growth.
Thank you, Sharon. So instead of me trying to upload the same presentation, can I ask you to just leave it and then scroll as I'm speaking? So thank you to the audience for listening. I know there's a lot of information coming your way. The idea is to give you a flavour of the speech contest, both in UK and Europe, and we're very proud to be part of this project. I myself definitely am very proud. But Sharon, can I ask you just to go one step back to the winners? Thank you. So just to kind of contextualize and give you a bit of background about the project growth in the UK, but I'd also like to just show you the flavour of women who have taken part. Now, if you look, Afro's Merchant in 2015, that was our very first ever speech contest. So we have contact, we remain in contact with most of our finalists, and we've created different mechanisms to do so. We need to update this presentation slightly more to include recent winners. But if you look from 2015, we've now celebrated 10 years, and we are in, Afro's 2016, and I'll talk more about that. But I just wanted to kind of just give you some context. And Valentine Nakoyo in 2017, who is not with us any longer, but she's with us in spirit, and we're sharing her work. So we remain in touch. Samantha Stribel, Sanjana Poddar, who was one of our youngest speech contest finalists. So it's not just a journey where it's just a contest where people apply and they leave. We remain very much in touch and very personalized. Amina still remains in touch with us. We had a social recently, a meetup, and Amina is very pivotal in the work, and as is Conaf. Conaf did an internship with us, which I will explain more to you. So I mean, as we're explaining the process, it can become impersonal, but I really wanted to touch on the personal element and the personal journey. So as I share with you kind of the process, I also very much interpersonal relationships are very, very important. And I will hopefully impart that flavor to inspire you to ask questions and feel inspired from today that you can maybe take this on in your areas and regions. Next slide. Thanks, Sharon. So just to carry on from what Sharon has been saying, she's given you an overview of when it started in Japan, and then it's brought over not just by Tycho Duckworth alone, but also, you know, her being a meaning. Harumi was also part of that, and then the WFWP UK team takes it to another flagship project in 2015, which is very funnily enough, when I got involved with Women's Federation, and in 2016 I was invited to take part in the Young Women's Speech Contest. I will share a bit of my journey later on. So as we took it on in 2015 in the UK, when I got involved in 2016, I realized that the local branches needed some more support because it was a very new, in-depth project. Local branches had taken it on, but it'd be nice to visit and see what local branches were doing. So what we did visit each branch. So here you can see Birmingham. They're very successful in their launch of the Young Women's Speech Contest in Birmingham. Bromley, South London, Central London. I also know Watford has taken it. So this spans for those in Europe, different regions of the UK. Next slide. And just to point out, yeah. And then the international, yeah, South London here. Yeah, just taking it back. These were, so the middle person here is my daughter, and she was 10 then. This is South London branch. This is our finalist of last year. So now, just to show you that there is a legacy going on here, and they remain with us. I will allude to that a bit later on in my talk to you. Sharon, next slide. So now we speak about our international growth. So as it became very successful in the UK, you know, our wider community, WFWP, took it on board. Albania is definitely very, very successful, and there's lessons that we can share across each other. Spain also have taken it up, and Sharon also then was part of that, taking it to Uganda, was part of it in Spain, and Sharon will speak to you more about her journey with Uganda, and remains interest from wider parts of Middle East and Asia. Next slide, please, Sharon. So as Sharon mentioned, over the growth we celebrated 10 years now. We're now in our 11th to 12th year. So as each year finalists were final, so we are the I should make clear now as I'm speaking to you is there are regional branches, and then there's the national overall contest. And what happens is the finalists at local level will apply to, say, Birmingham, Central London, and then the winners will have automatic entry, and there's the national UK contest. And Edinburgh has chose to try to take it on last year, but I think they need a bit more support. So that also falls under national, the national team under UK. So what happens is each year we have 7 finalists here in the UK in the national competition. Obviously in the local branches, they also have 7. So what we're finding that there are groups and teams of women who are taking part in the Young Women's Speech Contest, but after the contest, are they then left? So we found that women wanted to remain in touch. They wanted to be part of this community of a network that we've built, women leaders, because it's a very supportive environment. So this is where, as a committee, we put our heads together and thought, what's a way of keeping the community together and, you know, offering aftercare, auditing the skills, and bringing it all together under one house. And more than that, fostering that community of women, like-minded women, where they can access support and leadership, which you know is very, very rare. So in that, we launched the alumni network in it was initiated a little bit, but the official launch was in 2022. So now we are in touch with all the women, all the finalists of the speech contest from the launch. Some members are not in the alumni network, but we remain in touch, and so all members are under the alumni network. as part of that is to have a social or a workshop, a leadership workshop every year. So I will also talk through how we keep in touch with our community of women leaders. So under the alumni network, Ugandan finalists, members are allowed to apply. They can be part of the alumni network. So it's a very wide and growing, but as with the speech contest, it's a big project, and there are many areas that could do with more work, more development, but we invite young women to be involved with us, and this is one of the initiatives. Next slide, Sharon. So, as maybe before I speak about this, so that highlights the growth up until the alumni network. But what we found was, and we will talk you through the UK process, but we didn't want to do process entirely here because then it would be too much information. We wanted to talk about the journey. So as each young person applies, takes part in the process, competition, we have aftercare, because it's not just, oh, they apply and then what happens to them. So there is the alumni network, but there are many ways of getting involved. Even through the alumni network, it can be just one event. So we found that we offered various ways of remaining in touch with us, but also becoming part of the team, not just Women's Federation, but also the leadership team. And one of those ways was volunteering, but also becoming an intern. So, but we also have another package, which is the Leadership of the Heart, which Enna is the director of that educational program. Maybe if we have time, she can speak to you more on that. But we also launched a formalized internship program, which was to specialize on women's development, but also look at the area where the young finalist has talent. So Conaf Kako, she was the winner in 2022 in the UK, and she had experience in community development. She was a student at the University of Greenwich. So that internship scheme matched with the needs of the Young Women's Speech Contest. As you can tell, it's a very busy program. We meet 52 times a year. And so there are many elements to be done. So we had needs, and we matched that with what the strengths of the intern. So the internship scheme also involves an interview application stage. There's an employability stage, very much like how you would to apply to a job. So I won't take you through that process too much, but Conaf Kaka was one of our interns in the UK, and then Teddy Aina, who was a winner of the Ugandan speech contest, she also applied to be an intern. So simultaneously that year, Conaf Kaka and Teddy Aina were recruited as interns and worked with us very successfully. And Conaf's in particular was extended for a year, and then she went to WFWP Japan as part of the intern. There's a huge journey there. She also accessed funding to deliver one of her projects, and that was part of the Mayor's Pot of funding in the UK. There's many stories with this, and as part of that, she also did bios for each of us on the programs. So there you can see my beautifully presented bio made by Conaf Kaka. Next slide, please, Sharon. So what I wanted to do, although we are talking about process, we're giving you context, we're talking about the speech contest, is very, very important also to let you know about the spirit of the speech contest, who we are, why we're all volunteers, and why are Asma, Sharon, Enna still here 10 years on as part of the team? Because there's a very tight-knit team behind the scenes, both led by Mitzi, but we foster that in the group. We do that through the alumni network. We have social, there's Oksana, many of you may know, Sharon, there's Conaf. So this was one of the socials and leadership networking that we had in Battersea Power Station, which is quite a prestigious location, and it's in the UK, in London, and we managed to have a social and workshop. We've also had a recent social just last month, just as part of women's development. We had a leadership workshop and we had a facial, we had leadership presence training. So there's different types of things going on behind the scenes to foster that community development, both individual personal development and professional development. So those are very, very important elements. We can only give you a flavor of what's going on behind the scenes. And I hope I can try and impart some of the joy and the love and the hard work that goes on as we prepare for the speech contest. Next slide, please, Sharon. Sharon, if I've missed anything or you feel that we could add at this level, please do interject. But this is our website. We do have social media campaigns. But this is our main contact details on our website. So Young Women's Speech Contest leaflet is advertised on the Women's Federation for World Peace UK website. We have email, we have a Facebook dedicated solely for Young Women's Speech Contest UK Instagram, phone line, and that's the head office. So we do invite sponsorships to maintain the ongoing activities. As you know, very much like Albania, we offer prizes, there's judges involved, so there's a lot of costs which we haven't spoken about, but we are open to questions. But this was a presentation part. We also want to share, Sharon and I, in our next part of our presentation, we will share with you our journeys. But for the presentation part, I want to say thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, please note them and we will answer them in the Q&A session. So Sharon, as part of the formal presentations, and this is where we open up to our wider team, can I ask you, and Katerina as well, but I'm going to kind of put my co-director in the hot seat because we share half a seat. We're co-directors, and I've got to say it's one of the best teamwork. I have a fantastic team in the UK. I work with a fantastic team, but the hot seat that I share with my co-director, and I'm telling you, she warms the seat for me and I warm the seat for her. So can I put her in the hot seat and ask her to share in her journey? And what was your key highlight?
Sorry, is that me?
No, you are definitely part of what I've just said. But I'm putting my co-director in the hot seat first.
There is a lot of beautiful and inspiring and hardworking co-directors. So I am definitely sharing that position with all of you, and really grateful to have all of you in my team. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing the presentation. I found it really beautiful and well explained. And yeah, hopefully we will be able to create much more exposure. And right now I'm in Croatia, I'm in Zagreb at the moment for a holiday, but I'm already in the works to try to bring the Young Women's Speech Contest to Croatia. So all of these tips are very well welcome. So thank you, Asman. Thank you, Sharon. You've both been a part of my team and inspired me since the beginning, which was 2020. I began my journey through the speech contest, and I did not expect to be here today. Back then, when I was thinking about it, I considered the speech contest just to be a one-off, but I think what kept me is the quality of people, all the virtue, and that inspires all the women present and everything that's involved in the speech contest. I think we've got a really, really, really good team of people who are able to tap into virtues of other women and just share, inspire more, and empower and amplify what's expressed on that stage. And that happened for me as well. Even in the times of COVID, we made it work. I remember that people were clapping with their fingers because they weren't allowed to clap with their hands, not to minimize the spread. But I think that was the testament to the commitment of women in the team and wider to empower women. So yeah, I was really excited to do the speech. And I think one of the most important bits of the speech contest would be the part where our participants share their personal story, their personal involvement into the topic. Obviously, we do have the topic, but a lot of them decide to be vulnerable and to share their story, which is something that we connect over, and we are able to, inspire each other with our life stories. So yeah, that was my journey. And also, I think you mentioned Leadership of the Heart, which is another educational program that we used to, inspire women after the speech contest. I was a part of it for a couple of years, the in person. Recently, we've created an online program, which is still in the works. But yeah, the Leadership of the Heart program is about spirituality, emotional maturity, and self-worth. So not only we're empowering women with their voices on an international level through the speech contest, but we're also empowering them from in the inside regarding emotions, regarding identity, authenticity, community. So yeah, it's a full circle, and we've got a great thing going on.
Thank you, Anna. That's lovely, and I can add to that definitely. One of my highlights. I mean, I invited Sharon, but I think we've taken over Sharon, haven't we? I put her in the hot seat, and now we're holding her. But I think just to kind of echo what you're saying, one of my key highlights is when the finalists, when the contestants apply their nerves, they come with their own spark. We're not seeking excellence, but to be part of that journey when they come in, they receive the coaching training, and then who they become and the journey that they continue with and what they share with you, to be part of the coaching and mentoring of women. For me, that is the reason why I am involved, and it never gets old. I will share with you certain journeys of contestants of where they are, but even youngest 16, 17, 18-year-olds wanting to apply, but for different reasons. But I won't, because I'm going to put the spotlight back on my colleague and friend, and put her back in the hot seat to share some of her highlights, and obviously Katerina as well.
Thank you, Asma, and thank you, Anna, for sharing. Yeah, the speech contest has become a 10-year journey, a 10-year love story, if you will, a very positive one. Yeah, I can attest to, and I think Mitty and Asma, the ladies who saw me from the very beginning, from 2016. I came in one woman or one young woman, and have blossomed into something else. And part of that has, I can only attest to the speech contest, but like Anna beautifully put, the quality of the people in this organization. And so what the program has ended up giving to me is leadership and coming into my own power as a young woman. And that's because Mitty entrusted someone like myself and Asma to step up as leaders for this program, for this initiative. And so I'm always going to be an advocate for young women, to use their power, use their voice to do whatever they want in this world. I believe most women want to do good in this world. And I think the Women's Federation and this platform is a good way, or is very good at connecting those traits, those qualities, those desires in young women. Um, yeah, and I knew I was onto something really, really good when I had the burning desire to bring this program to Uganda. My heritage, I'm originally Ugandan. Both my parents are from Uganda, although I reside in London. And yeah, I'm very familiar with my country back home, and I knew that I wanted to bring this special platform to the young women back home and give them the same opportunity of practicing leadership. And so it was a success. This was in 2022 in collaboration with the WFWP Uganda. I could go more into that, but I'm not going to steal too much of my airtime. I also do have another meeting, unfortunately, that I have to jump off of. I'm so sorry to be so rude. But I'm going to hand it over to Asma. And I guess, Asma, if I had a question for you,
She returns the favor, putting me back in the hot seat.
Of course. Asma, I guess what I would ask you is, what's the one thing that you think the platform has given to you, and what do you think you would pass on to the next generation because
This
of
might
this
sound
platform?
like we've been rehearsed and we're on commission or something. But I think no. We both entered at 2016, and the program had just launched in 2015. And we felt it was an amazing, amazing program. One thing about the Young Women's Speech Contest, its USP is if you look on public leadership in Parliament or even at university, it invites you to speak as a third person. The USP of the Young Women's Speech Contest is that it invites you to speak from a personal level. Now, even to speak on a professional level on a topic is hard. Public speaking is not easy, right? Every time we have to public speak, we get butterflies, right? But if you then are invited to be vulnerable and speak on a personal level on a stage to be judged, that is no mean feat. It's not a small measure. So when I see those young women, they're already seasoned, but they're willing to stand on stage at local level and national level and take criticism and the support and then the end journey. That's my key takeaway. That's the joy I feel, and also the measurement that I've felt of leadership and being part of a team and a supportive team and meeting a like-minded community of women, not just in the UK and not just in London, the wider network of women across Europe and globally. Wherever I go, I know I will meet like-minded women. And whether we just meet today or whether we've been friends and colleagues for a long time, it's that instant you come from that same common ground. And I can see Britta, I can see others, Dr. Jennifer, and I know that you come from that same common ground, that same passion. And this is what the Young Women's Speech Contest brings out, and that leadership. And this is why I am passionate about it for myself, for my daughter, and for the young women. And just to take a little bit more of airtime, like Sharon said, it's Young Women's Speech Contest in itself. There are many public contests, but it's like a contest where, oh, we've done the speech contest now, off you go. With us, it's not like that. We have celebrated 10, 12 years now, and we're still here. And that is what it means. It's not just a contest where you go. We are a community of women working to empower change, and public speaking has the power to make real change, both at grassroots and at UN level. So it's very, very powerful. So I've digressed a little bit, but that is my takeaway and my joy for working with women. Thank you. And I think over to Em.
Thank you so much, Asma. I would just like to invite Katerina to share a little bit about her personal journey, or anything that you want to share about your experience with the Young Women's Speech Contest.
For your sharing, it's very inspirational to hear your story. So you're all in the seat of a participant. For me, it was always being in the seat of an organizer. Also, for me personally, it has been always very inspiring to see many young people who have a vision. And I think that's the power of this event, that it attracts those young people who want to do something in the world, because it's easy to become maybe more pessimistic and say that the young people, okay, they are leaving the country, or they have no vision. But it's not true, because this is the kind of event that really attracts them. So this has been, I think, really the power of that event, and this is what makes me continue. And I just maybe wanted to add a few words about sponsorship, because I saw there were some questions like that in the chat. So as I mentioned before, that yes, we managed to receive sponsorship a couple of times from Women's Federation International, but it's not a huge grant, right? It's like maybe $1,000 or euros to cover the basic costs. But I see now that, and we still, okay, if we don't get this grant, we try to find at least like one, maybe individual somewhere in the circle of our contacts closer, or who somehow like this vision and can support at least this, like, let's say, main chunk of the money. But I actually see a lot of potential in terms of fundraising for that idea, especially if we've started already and have a history of success, because I think it's something that can really inspire people to donate. And I think we need to approach them not with a mindset that, okay, we're asking for money. We are asking them to participate in this kind of great initiative that they can contribute to young people, and that they also, can be proud of being part of that. So we just started last year. We don't even have that much experience, and this is one aspect I still want to grow. So we approached a few individuals who responded positively, and actually they became our collaborators. It's not just they gave money or they offered a prize, because one of those ladies, let's say she was a teacher, so she could help us in the jury in semi-finals, and she kind of became more internally our members, because they like the vision of this event. And then whoever offers anything, we give them space during the main event after the speeches are done, right? When the jury has to discuss, when we have this, empty space that we have to fill in, we give it as a space to advertise. So anybody who offers something, they can talk about their business or about whatever, they would like to share. So, and we are now reaching out also to more people. Again, this is not something, I cannot just say that I have a huge history of success. That's something in the making, but again, I have a conviction that this is a project with which we can reach out to donors, to maybe, why not, business women, right? I'm sure many of them are passionate about supporting young women or youth in general. And this is an event, again, just ask them, they can be partners, not just donors in this case.
Oh, what happened? Oh, Sharon just jumped off. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Katerina. I think that was very illuminating for us as well in the UK, specifically around sponsors. I think it's a great idea if we can team up with, obviously we would pick the sponsors. It could be something in the wellness industry, or, as you said, restaurants, something that will continue to inspire women or the people involved in the speech contest. So that's very innovative. Yeah, so thank you for that. And now we are reaching the Q&A. There are a couple of questions, and I think you addressed it, Katerina, in the chat. If anybody has any questions, they can just put them in the chat. Maybe I can read them out, or maybe unmute themselves, if possible.
There are a couple of questions in the chat.
Yeah, I think those were addressed. So we had a question: did you ever have a man applying for the contest? Katerina?
Yes, I responded to the question. Yes, because we now open it both to young women and men. So usually we do have, not so many, but we have usually every year, 1 or 2 in the finals. So the answer is yes. And also there was a question about the evaluation rubric. And sorry, this is just something last moment, so this might be not a perfect example, but just to give you an idea, I put something from the competition, but also I have another rubric, just not from Women's Federation. I work as a teacher, so I participate in similar event also, between the schools. So I just gave another example of a evaluation rubric for a student's speech. So you can just look at that and think how it could be adapted to your situation. And of course, I'm sorry, but there's a different, of course, rubric for a written speech. I would have to compile that if anybody is interested, I can of course send them over. Maybe I can write my email on the chat.
Yeah, I think that could be good for any additional questions. I think you also addressed the financing and module specific for women with disabilities.
I can answer that.
Yeah.
Unless, Katerina, did you want to address anything from Albania? So there aren't any particular modules, because I speak from the point of view YWSC UK, so that incorporates all the local branches. But obviously, local branches also operate within their context, and we head it here in head office in London. So that's a very privileged position to be. But the program of the Young Women's Speech Contest is replicated similarly across the UK, and is very inclusive. It's very inclusive. If there are any disabilities or needs, we invite them to let us know. If this is not answering the questions, please reframe the question to how you want it, but this is the way I'm taking the question. So are there any modules specific for women in disabilities? There are no modules, because what it is, it's a theme-based contest. However, if any individuals have disability or needs, they're welcome to address that with us, and that can be different needs. We do our best to try and meet it where possible. But we have had candidates who have applied with disabilities. We haven't had a theme around disability, but we have had themes around intersectionality, which addresses women's needs as a whole. So that incorporates disability, because as we know, say for instance, I'm a Bengali woman. Being Bengali is not just, I am not only just Bengali, I am British, I'm a woman, I'm educated. So intersectionality represents that as a whole. But we have had candidates who have had disabilities. I myself have neurodiverse needs following a brain injury. So we do, our panel members also have different disabilities. So we work to try and address that. We did have a couple of years ago a particular finalist who had a speech impediment. We worked with her to support, and as you know, with a speech impediment, delivering a speech on stage can be quite difficult. We worked with her. We said, take it at your own pace. It's a very, very loving, warm, inclusive environment, which is what we create. And when you create a supportive environment, it enables people to be themselves, open up about needs, and that's the way we operate. However, if there's any specific disabilities, we invite people to let us know, and we work as far as we can for that. If that is a question in the context of the question I've answered, if there's a different question, please put it in the chat. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just like to add everything that you said, Asma, of course, but even requests such as like anonymity, which we do have, and dealing with data, which is like it has to be dealt with as well, security of data, all the legal stuff. We had a contestant previously where she did not consent to have the pictures taken or being live while she's presenting because of various reasons, like her job, or she simply didn't want to. And I think it's very important to emphasize the concept of choice as well. So if they have any preferences in regards to the speech contest, of course, we'll try our best to accommodate that. I think there was another question from Britta, and Katerina's addressed it. Britta said, did you make any big mistakes in the beginning? Things good to avoid besides having our people in the jury? If you just want to reiterate, Katerina.
Can I just add a little bit there? Because it's such a structured and incredible program. So for us who haven't started in our countries, it's like there has to be mistakes that you made. It couldn't have been this great from the beginning. That's what I want to know.
I mean, yeah, don't be afraid of mistakes. Just get all materials you can. We also did that. We took everything I could from MITI and we thought how to do it. So my personal philosophy is better to do something imperfect than not to do at all. So just get anything you can and just plan it out and do your best. So for me, always the only, if I can challenge, is that, sometimes somebody is not satisfied, right? Somebody really have great hopes to win. And so occasionally there are some small issues of that kind. That's why we try to really, from the very beginning, emphasize, you just came here and you are a winner. because you're challenging yourself, and I'm just saying like how difficult it's to evaluate, because it is truly difficult, especially at the finals. Everybody's excellent. So I'm just kind of repeating this message over and over just to really avoid those disappointments. And also, like, in our first competition, we had two ladies from the same party in the jury. Both were really like high level public figures, like, really respectable. And the one person who like, she was having a great hopes of winning, and she didn't get any prize. Then she thought, okay, we are just siding with this political party, and it's like blah, blah, blah. And so this was so the only issues sometimes were those small dissatisfaction, also.
Sounds exciting. Yeah.
I laughed when I saw Britta's name with that question. Thank you, Britta. But it's a very important question, and to be honest, it's good not to be afraid, because when an actress I'm no Marilyn Monroe, please, I know, right? But even when Marilyn Monroe, I mean, Mita is representing that aura today, maybe, but the thing is, we shouldn't be scared of making mistakes. It's a fantastic program. Can you imagine how the participants feel when they're standing on stage, which is what we said. But you shouldn't be scared of making mistakes, because what it is, it's a fantastic program. You've got the support, and we can support you. It can be small. It's within your remit. It doesn't have to be huge. It can be, 3-4 participants to start off with, to give yourself support, outreach amongst your own inner circles. And from there, just start, because the idea is to build a small but supportive environment. And if you start from there, from good intentions, believe me, we, even though we're presenting 10 years on, we look all polished, our finalists are really high and prestigious. Yes, they are. But we also, we do look for excellence, but there are also candidates who are not polished. And that goes with any program. You've just got to make the start, make a prayer, make the best intention. And we are here. I'm happy to support you, guide you through. And from there, if you just network amongst your community, you can speak to colleges, universities, but half the time they come through friends. Half the time, Mitty is the best one. I'll tell you. Don't tell her I said so. Okay. But she's very good at networking, very good at meeting people and say, would you like to? And I've started to do the same. And that's how people come. So if you just start with that soft intention, and that's the way to do it. And have we made mistakes? Yes. But it's like a very, very good Hollywood film. We meet 52 times a year. And I'm going to share a little story. I burnt a chicken curry once hosting a meeting, talking about women and multitasking, right? Being a mom, cooking dinner, and trying to host Women's Federation meetings, right? And I burnt my family's dinner, yeah? So we're not polished, but we get it done. And when you make a mistake, nobody knows, right? Only you know. And even if you make a mistake, you just say, I've made a mistake, and you carry on, because the team is rooting for you. Team is there to support you. There are times when we're women, we've got so much on. My hot seat partner, Sharon, and the team, even Anna, but she's very busy. She can't deliver, so I'll step in. When she can't deliver, we'll step in. So that's what team leadership, team building. We model what we are talking about. We're not just delivering a program, we model it, because we're women, we have 25 different hats, right? We have 10 God-given fingers, but we have 25 different hats. And I think if you identify that, being a woman, I think you'll do well with this project. Thank you.
Can I just
Absolutely agree. Sorry, somebody had a question?
I was just going to say that if anybody does want to start a speech contest in their country or in their community, we have a package that we can share, and then you just basically give us your contact details, and we can have a conversation after that, and we can guide you through. So there's a bit of aftercare that we can help in that. And also, I do want to look at the branches, without those branch coordinators, they really invested so much, and they still invest so much in finding these young women. And so it's like hand in glove. We need the branch coordinators as well as hosting everything on the national level to give it a bit more bigger exposure. And then we do bring the young women on a kind of a journey where they can have platforms to speak at prestigious venues like the Parliament, deservingly so, that they can, share their speech, but at the same time, it's exposure to our flagship project. And I think people like it because I remember when Sharon was moderating and then she was talking about her speech contest. This was in the Parliament. And members of the Parliament were very impressed by her, that they even thought she could be a good politician, actually, because she's got that grasp of she can articulate herself very well. And I think having that environment around of women who will support and giving that encouragement is really important. So if there are anyone or anybody who would like to take on the speech contest, please do contact us here in the UK or in Katerina in Albania, because it's a springboard for many, many doors and opportunities to come in, actually. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. And I want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitty, so much for that message. Yeah, I think we definitely need to mention the further opportunities that were offered to women, and I think that's also very important. It's a part of the speech contest. So yeah. Is there any other questions for the speakers today? If so, speak your now, or stay silent forever, or whatever they say at weddings.
Hold your peace. I think in terms, because the aim of today's workshop was to give a flavour, I think in a nutshell, if we just cover the process, it might be an idea. I know we're very tight on time, but I think if we just do an overview of the process, although you can reach out to us and we can talk you through, but it's application stage, then interview, and you have your committee. And committee can be one or two people. I know this sounds very formal, but please don't be afraid. I mean, and then you do advertise. Now, participants come through all channels. They can come through online media, they can come through schools. You can start from 18 plus. It doesn't have to be 18 to 29. It can be 18 to 40, which it was originally in the UK, allowing you to start. And then what you have is a selection process. And although we have a selection, we look at their speeches, we say 1,000 words here, you can make it shorter. And then after that, we do have a national day of the speech contest delivery where judges are there. We typically have 3 judges. They deliver the speech and the judges ask one question. And like you said, like Katerina said, there is a rubric, a guidance where we measure them by. But throughout that, we form a relationship with the contestants. Here in the UK, we have mentoring and coaching training for the finalists, we say, because originally they're contestants, and then when they have been selected, we call them finalists, right? Because they've been through the process. And those finalists, we build a relationship with, we offer them training. So if you think of it as relationship building and not a contest, it's easier on you as well, because then it's not so big. And what happens here in the UK, even on the day, because they've been part of the training, they're no longer contestants, even though they're taking part in a contest. They take pictures of each other and they really form a community. After that, obviously, on the day they deliver, the judges judge, then there's first, second, and third prizes, and then they get certificates for runners-up. Even the last 4 are runners-up, they're finalists. That's why we changed the language, because they are finalists. And then we do photos, but we also stay in touch with them, what they would like to do. So like we said, we've got different ways of staying in touch. They have opportunities to speak in the conferences, in Parliament, or even projects that they want to take. And they can also share in the community. If you want to take it on in your chapter, you have access to the alumni network or any resources. So there's a group of women who are happy to help and happy to be part of. So I hope that just serves to give you a flavor of the process, but there's a difference between the process and the team. So just do remember that. Yeah, I hope that serves to provide a flavour and some inspiration for you today.
Thank you so much, Asma. As you can see, my daylight is going off. It's I'm in a different time zone, just getting darker and darker, my face. I'd just like to thank everyone for attending today. Hopefully it was informative and inspiring for everyone. If Mitty wants to close off the programme, I would welcome her.
Yeah, I think I said already. So anyway, I'm just grateful to have this capacity building session, and we will continue. The next one will be on 90-day planning. Perhaps that could be the starting point for the speech contest, plan it within a 90-day period. So Rosalind Bloomsfield will give that presentation, and we'll send invitations for those capacity building. Anyway, I just want to say thank you to everyone who attended, to all the presenters, to Anna for moderating so well. Yeah, that's it really, and wish everyone a good evening. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's the end.
Thank